to the Girl Dad Show.
Welcome to the Girl Dad Show, a professional parenting podcast. Each month, I interview entrepreneurs, leaders, and professionals who are balancing parenthood, life, and profession in the hopes to learn what it takes to be an amazing professional parent. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. Today's Girl Dad Talk number 7. In part of season 2, I'm going to mix interviews with just monologues about my professional parenting journey and what I've been doing and where I'm at. And I've been doing this a little bit ad hoc and just kind of popping on, hitting record and just talking freeform, which has been really, really helpful for me personally, and just kind of like talking about where I'm at the moment. And it's been really helpful mentally and emotionally, just talking through things out loud and sharing it. So I'm going to continue on this thread and just kind of talk about what I've been working on over the last week or so here and kind of where I'm at with my professional journey. And so there's been a lot of things that have happened in the last 2 months, and it has been maniacal. So I think I may have done too many things. And so I have started to embark on a lot of different business ventures, multiple real estate investments, started a pull service business, made an investment into a video production company called Flipboard Films. So helping them grow out my consulting business, getting laid off and losing a bunch of clients at the same time. And trying to be a dad. And especially as my kids are going into school again, or at least, I'm sorry, Lily is now going into kindergarten and Grace is going into preschool. But there's a lot of like stuff that you have to do because it's our first kid in school. And so it's been really maniacal and crazy and really fun to have all these kind of like high fidelity, complex business questions and answers that I have to work through, whether it's with clients or, the pool business or real estate or wherever that may be, and then also flip the script and talk to the kids about what school's going to be like and how to ride the bus and all those other things. And so it's been really, really crazy couple of weeks, but I will say the last few weeks have been really great. And I think journaling has really helped, and I talked about this last episode, but I started journaling about 3 weeks ago just to see if I can level set just the chaos that was in my mind. And I think it's really helped me understand why it got so chaotic. And I think the conclusion is that it got so chaotic because I packed in my day with too many things. Something I was talking to my wife about last night, we went on a date night after a parent teacher conference, and we were just talking about how, in most cases, one of these things that I'm working on may actually be in itself the one thing I should be working on. And I have at the scale and scope of it, I have 3 or 4 of these things. And so I think in the new year, I'm going to try to really figure out a way to not necessarily pendulum swing to the opposite side, but come down a couple gradients and figure out a way to do a couple of things really, really well versus trying to make all of these bets and be so aggressive. And I do want to defend my initial decision to make all these investments and do all these different businesses and grow out these different ways. Because if you have been following along on my Girl Dad Talks, you'll know that I'm on a journey to find more time with my kids. And in order to do that, sooner, I had to make a lot more bets, and I had to make a lot more plays and at bats for me to hit some level of asset return to basically be able to work less and spend more time. But I think the problem is that it doesn't allow for things to go wrong. And so in most cases, when things go wrong, it's not that big of a deal. You process it, you build a system for it, and then you operationalize it. But I think in my case, what happened a couple months ago is that multiple things went wrong. So in multiple businesses, multiple things went wrong. It basically didn't allow space for me to adjust and adapt and optimize. And so I need to really think about that, and really think through worst case scenarios and what that looks like if things do go wrong. And so I really am going to focus on figuring out what that looks like for this next quarter, as well as the following year, on what are the few things that I want to do really well. And how do I want to keep growing those things? As of right now, I feel really good about the real estate. The Airbnb is starting to get, settled, and it's profitable. So that is kind of getting into a good place and a good system. I have good vendors and I have good property managers, and everything is starting to finally flow, which is nice. And then the pool service business, we took it off of growth mode and we turned it into profitability mode. And so starting this coming month, it's going to be profitable, which is super exciting, and really, really incredible. And so that should also be a little bit more manageable and sustainable, or at least not as time consuming as it may have been over the last, especially the last month, as we have been like switching it from growth mode to profitability mode. It's a huge culture shock, especially because the business is only 7 months old or 8 months old at the time. It's like, hurry up and run, and then hurry up and slow down, and lean out. And so I think that culture switch was really, really, really difficult. And then I've been talking to a lot of the clients about what I've been working on, and I think the biggest thing that I've realized is that the consulting business is potentially a business that I can start expanding. And meaning that I've been working really closely with Jamie, who's been with me now for, I want to say 6 months, but I've worked with her for about a year now. And she is proving to be very, very good at biz ops and the consulting work that I do. And I'm actually starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel where I might potentially be able to work with her to take over a lot of the work that I'm doing here, and or at least take off some of my plate, if not take over. So that's really, really exciting. And hopefully that'll be something that I can actually all kind of like settle into things. And then I would normally, if I was on the same path, be like, okay, now it's time to start, the ice cream shop, or start, I think I have like half a dozen businesses ready to go that I want to start, but I think I'm going to take some time and just like relax and save some money and pay off some debt, and just get my mental sanity back and really focus on possibly elongating how much time I spend to basically get to, semi-retirement. Because my goal is to do it in 5 years. So I want to do it by the time I was 45. But I think I may actually push it to like 50, just because I think it's not good. And when shit hits the fan, it hits really, really hard. And so that's kind of where my head is at. And I've just been like trying to figure it out, while I'm busy and chaotic and crazy. But today marks a really special day for me, because it's like the first day that I woke up in the last like quarter, literally the last 3 months. Definitely the last 6 weeks was really hard, but definitely the last 3 months was very, very hard, especially with the first trigger of losing a bunch of clients. That triggered all sorts of things, and, not having the cash flow to keep investing in the pool service business, but the pool service business wouldn't be profitable. It just kept like cascading into problem after problem after problem, and it just kind of broke everything down. And so I just realized how like weak the foundation is in all these different things, and how vulnerable and exposed I am when it comes to creating stability for my family. And then being, a single income family, it just reminded me that I need to be more careful as a risk taker. And it's one of those conundrums, right? Because when I do this podcast and I interview parents, it feels like there's two camps, and granted, I've only done like 50 interviews or so of other parents that are, entrepreneurs and builders and professionals. But what I've noticed is that most parents seem to either hunker down and like choose to take a stable life, or like go in a way that evens out, that incorporates their kid a little bit more with their work, or they go the other route, which is they double down and try to be more for their kids. Obviously there's a third route where, you're just not trying to grow at all. But these are the two routes that I've seen for parents that are trying to like build a professional career while they're trying to build better parenting for themselves. And it seems like you either take a lot less risk than you used to, or you take even more risks. And I think I'm in the camp of taking more risks, and I'm not entirely sure if I want to keep going at the speed and scale I have been going. And so I've been talking a lot to my friend Eric, who kind of started me on this entrepreneurial escapade of, building all of these assets. And I've been talking to my wife a lot about this, but I think it's just a gradient. So that's kind of where my head is at. And the other thing I want to talk to you guys about today, besides just kind of like how I'm thinking about building these businesses and just lowering the velocity and the scale of them, maybe it's just lowering the speed of it, right? The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is solo time. So, as a dad, it was really, really hectic for me for the last 2 or 3 months, trying to figure out how to like make all of these things work, where I'm going to find the money, It was just crazy. It was a lot of stuff, and I can go into it if you want to know more about like the details of it. But it was a really dark and hard quarter. Q3 was, and it was very interesting to come to today where I feel like I'm actually at the top of the hill now, and everything's starting to become downhill. But I will say, last week Grace got a little bit sick, and so we had to split up. And I just took the opportunity to take Lily out for a solo day, and it was incredible. Lily and I have been not necessarily like bad, but I definitely feel like Lily and I have lost our connection a little bit, especially with Grace coming into her own, and she really clings to me, and and I love that as well. I cling to her, and we've bonded really, really tightly over the last year or so. And I feel like Lily kind of latches onto mom, and Grace kind of latches onto me. And it was incredible. Just me and Lily, just like the old days. We went to the arcade and we did obstacle courses, and I mean, we basically just did whatever she wanted, and it was amazing. And everywhere we went, she held my hand, and I haven't held her hand like that, or she hasn't asked me to hold her hand like that in probably months, which is really sad to think about, because I think Grace is always on top of me, or I'm holding her, or I'm playing with her, or she's so needy with me. So it was really, really great experience to just have that one-on-one time with Lily, and then have lunch with her and talk to her and play with her, and play video games and ride rides with her and experience all these new things with her. And then ever since that day, I feel like reconnected with Lily, and that could just be me. I'm sure. I'm sure that there's a part of this that's just me psychologically feeling guilty. Maybe I don't know what extent, but I definitely feel a difference. And so whether she feels it or not, I feel it. And so I think that that's really, really important that we find the time to do these one-on-one times, not only with our kids, but also with our significant others. Um, I had a parent-teacher conference last night, and so we got a babysitter, and Amy and I went to that together, because I want to try to attend as many of these things and events and functions as I can, and be as involved as I possibly can. Afterwards, Amy and I went to dinner for a date night, and it's just one of those things where it's like really good to spend that time, and it's hard to make the time, and it also seems very superfluous, because even the entire time I'm like thinking about my kids, right? Like, or work, right? Like, oh, I wish my kids were here to experience this, or they would really like this place, and that's kind of what we talk about, which is kind of sad in its own right. But I think it's really, really important that you force yourself to have that time, right? And it doesn't have to be all the time, but even if it's like once a quarter, or once even a year, like making sure that you're dedicating, a focused time to spend one-on-one with your kids, in this instance, one of your kids, and your significant other. And really, also, lastly, I was going to say, is finding time for yourself. That was one of the big things that I'm starting to realize I need to do more of. I need to find more time for me to think. I've been operating kind of at like super speed, and just overclocking my CPU, I should say. I think for the last year and a half, just kind of building all these things. I had a plan, and I went for it, and it's just been run, 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 run. And I think I need to find time to think, because I need time to react to things that went wrong to the plan, that didn't go to plan, and then also temper that with the goals of what I'm trying to be as a parent, and new things that I'm learning about parenting, and new things that I'm learning about being a husband and a dad, and then also just adapting to the market and life, like kids going to school, and what that entails and what that looks like. There's just so much stuff that you can't plan. And when you're so single-minded and focused, it definitely is really aggressive, and it can help you achieve really amazing things when you're just like, singularly focused on this, and you just drive, drive, drive like maniacally. But I just don't know if it's worth it. At least not for me. And I don't think that there's any amount of money that is worth that. And so I'm starting to realize that I have, limits to these things, of like what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not comfortable with. And it goes down to like core values and personal values. And I really need to take some time to think through what that looks like for me, because it's not binary. It's not black and white. I think for me, it's a shade of gray of what I'm willing to risk and how singularly focused I want to be, versus how much I want to build and how fast I want to build it so that I can semi-retire. Yeah, it's a conundrum. And so I think the big thing that I'm talking through right now is, or thinking through right now and talking to you about, is really that I'm at a crossroads, right? Where I've actually solved, I've gone through the trenches, and it was really bad and hard and really maniacal. And now I'm at the point where I think most of the stuff is solved for, and I can start moving forward more methodically and in a focused way. And I just really need to think through what I want to do next. And I will say that I am highly, highly considering just focusing it down to a handful of things, right? And really just like figuring out ways to take some time to think, because I think you need, just like any good operator, you need to like have a plan, but you also need to have points where you can check in to see if the plan is working and adapt it. And I don't necessarily know if I've um, baked that in. And I just don't seem to have enough time in the day. And it's not for lack of trying. I mean, I know that that's not true. Actually, I could probably work more, but I'm definitely doing a lot. Like I'm putting in like at least 10 to 14 hours a day. Right. And obviously trying to mix that in with, working out and, dinner with the kids, and then trying to keep the weekends open and all those things. But it's a lot, and I'm getting older, and it's harder to do those long days, and especially because the content is so dense, right? Like that's what I was talking to my wife about last night, is like the reason why I think I get so tired is because like each hour is so dense. It's either like solving like this really crazy problem as a consultant, or it's like solving this really crazy problem building a pool service business, just very tense content. I don't know, I need to be smarter, but or I need to learn how to simplify the process a little bit more. But it ends up being very, very high energy or high mind focus, and it makes me very tired. And I think I could have done it a lot better even last year. I felt like I could last longer and just have better endurance. But I'm just feeling a lot more ragged this year, especially in the last quarter. It's been really tiring. So physically, mentally, and emotionally, I'm feeling really exhausted. And I think I need some time to recharge and rebuild, and then get bored again, probably, and then start rebuilding and not rebuilding, but maybe continuing on this journey that I had a year and a half ago, the plan that I have a year and a half ago, but just doing it a little bit slower. And then really figuring out ways to incorporate more solo time with the kids, and then also incorporating more travel with the family. Because I think the big thing that I'm losing is that in my thesis, 2 years ago, when I came, a year and a half ago, or whatever that was, yeah, a year and a half ago, when I came with this thesis of building all these different, revenue generating assets, was that it was during the pandemic. And so things were shut down, and it was hard to get anywhere anyways. And it didn't really, for some dumb reason, I didn't calculate that it would open back up. And so travel wasn't really a thing when I came up with this idea. And so most of the time that I spent with my family was going to be at the house or locally or whatever that may be. And now that things are opening up, it's like, I think we need to get back to doing that, and that was such a big part of our lives pre-pandemic. We would try to travel at least one international trip and one domestic trip a year. And we ended up doing like 4 trips a year. And it's really important for, I think our psyche, our mentality, but also I just want to raise my kids up knowing what different cultures look like and how they think, and knowing there's different types of people and ways that different people think. And so I need to like take some time to reset and really think through where I'm going to go next year. And so I know I'm kind of rambling at this point, but in summation, I think this week I just want to share with you where I'm at. And I think the big takeaways for me are that I'm at a point where I've come out of a really, really hard spot in Q3, and finally feeling like today's the day that I'm going to actually start moving forward. And second of all, finding more time to spend one-on-one time with the kids and the wife and yourself, and really taking that time and enforcing it and prioritizing it. And then 3, using that time with yourself to really think through, what you really want and some of the consequences that might come from that. And then also figuring out where you can actually adapt the plan during the process. Because things are too rigid, it becomes hard. We're not rigid creatures, or at least I'm not a rigid creature. I'm pretty robotic, but I feel like even I've pushed my limit on my discipline and determination. And I think I need to be a little bit more flexible with it. And so those are the three major things that I'm working through right now. And I hope this has helped you in your journey. And I hope this is something that is interesting to you. And as always, if there's any questions you have for me, or if there's anything you want me to talk about or unpack further, please let me know. Like I said, I'm just doing these talks. I just hit the record button and I'm just talking. So I'm hoping it's interesting for you. But I will say, at the very least, it's really healthy for me. I feel amazing after I do these things. I just feel like I get to unload and just like think through how I'm feeling and thinking in the moment. And it has really changed my trajectory starting this process. So at the very least, I will say I'm very happy about doing this, and I'm going to continue to do it just because it helps me think and it helps me process and it helps me project forward where I want to go. But I do hope that it is something that is worthwhile or engaging. And I'd love to hear what you want to talk about, or if you want me to talk specifically about something else or unpack something. And thank you again for checking into this episode. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you again for listening to another episode of The Girl Dad Show. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, please take a moment to give us a review on your podcast service. These reviews help us grow a lot more than you know.